What if your sense of justice was put to the test in a deadly game of betrayal and secrets? In The Shadow Game, Between Law and Betrayal, attorney Ethan Cole takes on what seems to be a straightforward case of cyber intrusion. But soon, he finds himself entangled in forces much greater than he imagined, a world where corporate power, corruption, and government secrets collide. As Ethan digs deeper into the investigation, he realizes that nothing is as it seems, and every step brings him closer to a danger he might not be able to escape. The truth may cost far more than he ever expected. Could you handle what's hidden in the shadows? Ethan Cole sat in his modest office in downtown Chicago, reviewing the newest case on his desk. A hacker named Jason Reyes had been accused of infiltrating the servers of Apex Global, one of the largest tech conglomerates in the world, and leaking confidential data worth billions. The client's profile intrigued Ethan. Reyes wasn't the typical hacker. He had no prior arrests, no known criminal connections, and came from a quiet, middle-class family. On paper, he seemed more like a college dropout than a cybercriminal mastermind. Ethan's instincts told him something didn't quite add up. Yet, the evidence against Reyes was staggering: detailed logs, timestamps, and even a video of him allegedly accessing the server. But why would someone so smart be so careless? When they first met, Reyes was calm, almost too calm for someone facing decades in prison. He looked Ethan in the eye and said, "I didn't do it, but you're not here for the truth. You're here to figure out how deep this goes." Ethan was taken aback. How deep what goes? Reyes smiled cryptically but offered no further explanation. Determined to get to the bottom of this, Ethan dove into the case. There was something unsettling about how neatly the evidence was wrapped up, too neat. Apex Global, a company notorious for its secrecy, was eager to see Reyes prosecuted quickly. They even had top-tier legal teams pushing for an expedited trial. The pressure from them was unusual, but Ethan attributed it to the company's desire to prevent further damage from the data leak. As Ethan left the office that night, he received an anonymous email on his personal phone: "Be careful who you trust. Apex isn't what it seems." A chill ran down his spine. The message was unsigned, and its sender was untraceable. He knew this case was about to get much more complicated than a simple hacking charge. Ethan sat in the dimly lit kitchen of his apartment, staring at the anonymous email. He read it over and over, trying to make sense of it. Who had sent it? And why was Apex Global suddenly the subject of suspicion? He decided not to mention it to Reyes just yet. Instead, he focused on the next day's hearing, where Apex's legal team would argue to keep Reyes in custody without bail. The courtroom was filled with a strange tension. Apex had brought in 3 senior partners from a powerhouse law firm, something Ethan found extreme for a simple bail hearing. His gut churned as he watched them argue aggressively for Reyes to be denied bail, painting him as a threat to national security. When it was Ethan's turn to speak, he questioned why a tech company was so involved in pushing for a harsh sentence. Why is Apex Global, a corporation, treating this like a matter of life and death? What are they so afraid of? The lead prosecutor, a cold and calculating man named Brent Michaels, replied smoothly, "This is more than a simple data breach. Apex has reason to believe that the defendant, Mr. Reyes, was acting as part of a larger criminal network, perhaps even connected to international espionage." Ethan felt the weight of those words hang in the air. International espionage? None of this had been mentioned in the discovery. If it were true, it would explain Apex's obsession with this case, but why hadn't this information surfaced sooner? The judge agreed to keep Reyes in custody, and Ethan left the courtroom frustrated but determined. That night, he visited Reyes in jail. "Why didn't you tell me about the espionage angle?" Ethan demanded. Reyes shrugged. "Because it's a lie. They're just trying to paint me as a bigger threat to bury the real story." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "What's the real story, Jason?" For the first time, Reyes looked genuinely rattled. "I was working on something, but not for myself. I was paid to do it. And now, someone's trying to clean it up." "Paid by who?" Ethan pressed. Reyes leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "That's the thing. I don't know. All the transactions were through encrypted channels. But I do know one thing: Apex isn't just trying to prosecute me. They're trying to cover up something huge." Ethan felt the pieces of the puzzle scatter further, instead of coming together. As he left the jail, another message appeared on his phone: "You're in too deep. Drop the case." The warning was clearer now. But Ethan couldn't walk away. Whatever Apex was hiding, it was something worth killing for, or worse. The next day, Ethan found himself staring at a mound of documents in his office, trying to make sense of Reyes' cryptic comments. Something about the entire case felt like a trap, and now, with the warning texts piling up, Ethan knew he had to be careful. He started to trace the financial trail surrounding Apex Global, looking for anything unusual. Most of their transactions appeared clean, but buried within an obscure subsidiary in the Cayman Islands, Ethan found something odd: large, unexplained payments to shell companies, all linked to offshore accounts. At first glance, it was nothing unusual for a corporation of Apex's size. But then, Ethan noticed something. These payments were made around the same time Reyes was accused of the hack. Could these payments be linked to him? And if so, was Apex trying to cover up not only the data breach but something much larger? His phone buzzed again. Don't dig any deeper. This is your last warning. Ignoring the threat, Ethan called in a favor from a trusted friend in financial forensics, Kate, who agreed to help investigate the money trail further. She was an expert at uncovering hidden transactions, and Ethan trusted her instincts. This smells bad, Kate said after an hour of going over the data. It looks like someone funneled money to multiple entities right before Apex's servers were breached. Whoever they are, they're good at covering their tracks, but not good enough. With each step forward, the scope of the conspiracy seemed to widen. As Kate continued her analysis, Ethan received a call from an unexpected source, Allison Grant, a former senior executive at Apex who had resigned suddenly 2 years ago. She wanted to meet. They agreed on a discreet bar outside the city, where Allison arrived looking uneasy. "I can't stay long," she said, glancing over her shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't know what you're up against." "Then explain it to me," Ethan pressed. She hesitated before speaking. "Apex isn't just a tech company. They're into much darker things: government contracts, secret data mining programs, and I'm not talking about user data. They're tied to intelligence agencies, military ops. Reyes probably stumbled into something that wasn't supposed to see the light of day." Ethan felt a cold sweat creeping up his spine. What exactly did Reyes find? Allison leaned in closer, her voice urgent. "There's a project, Spectre. It's designed to intercept global communications. Not just emails and texts, but high-level diplomatic and military transmissions. It's illegal, and if the public found out, Apex, and a lot of powerful people, would be finished." Ethan sat back, stunned. This went far beyond corporate espionage. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because they came after me, too. That's why I left. But they won't stop until Reyes, and anyone else who knows about Spectre, is silenced." Just as she finished speaking, the lights flickered, and the bar's door swung open. 2 men in suits entered, scanning the room. Allison tensed. "I have to go. Be careful, Ethan. They'll come after you, too." Without another word, she slipped out the back door, disappearing into the night. Ethan's pulse raced. Whoever they weren't just playing defense anymore, they were hunting. Ethan's mind raced as he left the bar, replaying Allison Grant's warning in his head. Spectre, a project so secret, so dangerous, that even a whisper of its existence could topple corporations and implicate the highest levels of government. He realized now that Jason Reyes wasn't just a hacker caught up in a corporate scandal. He was a pawn in something far bigger, and Apex Global wasn't simply protecting its assets, they were silencing anyone who could expose the truth. The drive back to his apartment was tense, Ethan constantly checking his rearview mirror, his paranoia growing with each passing minute. As he entered his building, his phone buzzed once more. "Stop now. Walk away or you'll regret it." Ethan was too deep to back down. The anonymous warnings only fueled his resolve. He had a feeling the people behind them were watching his every move, waiting for him to slip up. But if Allison was right, if Reyes had stumbled onto Spectre, this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about something much larger, a conspiracy that could end careers, or worse, lives. The next morning, Ethan found a sealed envelope slipped under his office door. No return address, no markings. Inside was a single page of documents, blueprints, encrypted codes, and a list of names, some of which he recognized: high-ranking officials, government contractors, even foreign diplomats. At the bottom, one word stood out: Spectre. The document was proof, if incomplete, but it showed just enough to confirm everything Allison had said. Before Ethan could even begin to process what this meant, Kate called, her voice tense. "Ethan, I found something. Those offshore accounts? They're all linked to Apex, yes, but more specifically, they're tied to an entity that doesn't officially exist. It's some kind of shell operation. I cross-referenced it with a few government databases. Ethan, this thing has ties to defense contracts, surveillance projects, even military-grade cyber weapons." "Jesus," Ethan muttered. "This is bigger than I thought. Much bigger. And if you keep pushing, you're going to end up on someone's hit list." He was already feeling the pressure. Someone was monitoring his movements, feeding him threats, and now this envelope, proof that someone was leaking information from inside the system. But why send it to him? Was it a trap? Before Ethan could dive deeper, Brent Michaels, Apex's lead prosecutor, called him. "We need to talk, Cole. I'm sending over an offer. Reyes can walk away from this if he pleads guilty to a lesser charge. No prison time. He just disappears." Ethan almost laughed. Why the sudden generosity, Brent? A pause. "We both know Reyes isn't the main issue here. But we can't have this dragging out. My clients want it cleaned up. Tell your client to take the deal." Ethan's suspicions were confirmed. Apex was desperate to close the case. They didn't care about Reyes, they cared about what he had seen. Ethan hung up, knowing the offer was nothing more than a way to make this all go away quietly. Determined to get answers, Ethan headed to the prison to confront Reyes. When he arrived, however, Reyes wasn't there. The guard at the front desk wouldn't meet his eyes. "He's been transferred," the guard muttered, nervously flipping through paperwork. "Transferred? Where?" Ethan demanded. The guard hesitated, his fingers fumbling through the papers. "No one knows. No paperwork. He's just gone. Gone. No explanation, no trail." Jason Reyes had disappeared without a trace, and Ethan was left staring at the cold, hard reality. His client had been erased. Ethan felt his pulse quicken as the word "gone" echoed in his mind. How could they have moved Reyes without notifying him? Legally, it was impossible. But that was the thing, nothing about this case had followed the rules. Apex, Brent Michaels, the shadowy figures pulling the strings, they weren't playing by the law. They were bending reality itself. His phone buzzed again. Another message: "You were warned. Now you're a target." Ethan's hands tightened around the phone as his mind raced. Whoever had sent that message knew Reyes had vanished, maybe even orchestrated it. But where had they taken him? And what would they do to keep Spectre hidden? Back in his office, Ethan frantically combed through every contact he had, every thread he could pull. He reached out to Kate again, telling her about Reyes' sudden disappearance. "They're shutting this down," Ethan said, barely containing his frustration. "They moved Reyes off the grid. Can you find him?" Kate didn't sound surprised. "I had a feeling this might happen. Whoever's behind this is working at a level that can bypass any official channels. But I'll dig. I know people who can help me track his movements, unofficially, of course." Ethan thanked her, but the fear gnawed at him. He had no idea how much time Reyes had left, or how much danger he himself was in. That night, as Ethan tried to make sense of the fragments he had gathered, a new thought crossed his mind: why him? Why had Apex chosen him, a mid-level defense attorney with no high-profile cases, to represent Reyes? Why not someone else, someone more seasoned or connected? It was as if they had wanted him on the case, like they were setting him up for something. But for what? The next day, as Ethan arrived at his office, he noticed something off. The door was slightly ajar. He approached cautiously, heart pounding. Pushing the door open, he saw his office had been ransacked, files scattered, drawers pulled open, his laptop gone. Whoever had broken in had been looking for something specific. He heard a noise behind him and spun around, his breath catching. A tall figure stood in the doorway, dressed in a dark suit, his face obscured by the dim light. "Mr. Cole," the man said calmly, as if this were a routine meeting. "We need to talk." Ethan tensed but didn't move. "Who are you?" The man stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "My name doesn't matter. What matters is that you're in over your head. You've been asking the wrong questions, Mr. Cole. The kind that get people hurt." Ethan's instinct screamed at him to run, but he stood his ground. "Is that a threat?" The man tilted his head slightly. "It's a fact. Jason Reyes was never the issue. Spectre is. And you've dug too deep into something that was never meant to see the light of day." Ethan's throat tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "So what now? You're going to make me disappear too?" The man's lips twitched, almost forming a smile. "No, Mr. Cole. Not yet. You still have a choice. Walk away, drop the case, and no one gets hurt. Keep pushing, and, well, accidents happen." Without another word, the man turned and left, leaving Ethan standing alone in the wreckage of his office. Ethan's mind raced. The stakes had just been raised to a new level. Whoever this man was, he wasn't bluffing. Ethan was now a target, and the clock was ticking. Later that evening, Kate called with the results of her digging. "Ethan, I found something," she said, her voice hushed. "Reyes didn't just disappear. He was moved to a black site, a facility off the books, used by intelligence agencies for high-level detainees. This isn't just about a corporate cover-up. It's way deeper. And I don't know if I can keep looking into this without drawing attention." Ethan clenched his jaw. He had been right all along. Reyes was part of something much bigger, and now Ethan had a bullseye on his back. But walking away wasn't an option anymore. He was in too deep, and there were too many unanswered questions. If he didn't find out the truth, it could mean the end of everything, for him, and for Reyes. Ethan barely slept that night. His mind churned over everything, the black site, the break-in, the cryptic warnings. This had escalated far beyond any legal battle he'd ever faced. As dawn broke, he knew he had no choice. He had to uncover the truth about Spectre before it was too late. He called Kate first thing. "You said Reyes was moved to a black site. Can you trace exactly where?" "I've got a general location," she replied cautiously. "Somewhere outside DC. But listen, Ethan, this is dangerous territory. I don't know how much longer I can help without putting us both at risk." Ethan knew she was right. But he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out, for Reyes and for him. "One more thing, Kate. I need you to look into a name, Brent Michaels." Kate hesitated. "The prosecutor?" "Yeah," Ethan said, his voice tense. "Something about him isn't sitting right with me. He's too involved. It's like he's working for Apex, not against them." "Okay," she sighed. "But tread carefully. If he's part of this, he's not someone you want to corner." With that, Ethan was on the move. He decided to confront Michaels directly. He needed to force the man's hand, to see how far he was willing to go to keep this under wraps. Ethan arrived at the prosecutor's office unannounced, pushing his way past the secretary. Michaels looked up from his desk, surprised but unfazed. "Mr. Cole, this is unexpected," Michaels said, leaning back in his chair. "What can I do for you?" Ethan didn't sit. "Where's Reyes?" Michaels smiled, a thin, menacing grin. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Cut the act, Michaels. Reyes didn't just vanish from prison. You had him moved, and I know why." Ethan stepped closer. "This isn't about a hacking case anymore, is it? You and Apex are protecting Spectre. How deep are you in this?" Michael's smile faded. He rose slowly, circling his desk to stand face to face with Ethan. "You have no idea what you're playing with, Cole. Spectre is bigger than you, bigger than Reyes, and far bigger than anything you think you understand. Walk away before you regret it." Ethan didn't flinch. "You moved Reyes because you knew he could expose it. But here's the thing, Brent, you can't bury this forever. Someone's already leaking information, and if you're not careful, this is going to blow up in your face." Michael's eyes darkened, his voice lowering to a dangerous tone. "You think you're some kind of hero, Ethan? You're just a pawn, like Reyes. If you keep pushing, you'll end up the same way, disappeared, erased, nothing more than a footnote in someone else's game." The threat hung heavy in the air, and for the first time, Ethan felt the full weight of what he was up against. But instead of backing down, it only strengthened his resolve. "I'm not walking away. I'm going to expose this, and you're going to go down with it." Ethan turned and stormed out, heart pounding, knowing he had just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Michaels had all but confirmed that he was part of the conspiracy, and now, there was no doubt that they would come for him next. As Ethan made his way back to his office, his phone rang. It was Kate. "Ethan, I found something else. You were right about Michaels. He's tied to a shell company linked to Apex, and there's more, payments have been funneled through him to key players in the government. He's been orchestrating this from the start, protecting Spectre from within the legal system." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Jesus. So, he's been working both sides?" "Yes," Kate confirmed. "And it gets worse. The more I dig, the more I realize how far-reaching this is. Apex has ties to government surveillance programs that span multiple countries. Spectre isn't just illegal, Ethan, it's a global operation, and Apex is at the center of it." Ethan's mind raced as he pieced it all together. Spectre wasn't just a secret Apex was hiding, it was a tool, one they had been using to manipulate governments, corporations, even military intelligence. This wasn't just about Reyes anymore. It was about a power so vast it could destroy anyone who got in its way. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at his door. Ethan's heart leaped into his throat. He cautiously moved to the door and peered through the peephole. Two men in suits stood on the other side, their expressions grim. "Ethan Cole," one of them called through the door. "We need to talk." Ethan's heart raced. They had found him. Ethan's pulse quickened. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. He knew that opening the door might mean stepping into something he couldn't escape, but there was no time to hesitate. He unlocked the door and opened it just wide enough to peer out. The two men stared back, their expressions blank but intense. "Ethan Cole," one of them repeated. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, his voice tight. The man on the right flashed a badge. "Special Agent Moore, FBI. We need to speak with you about Jason Reyes and the case you're handling." Ethan's mind raced. Were they here to protect him, or were they part of the cover-up? He motioned for them to come inside, but his instincts screamed to stay on guard. As they entered, Moore glanced around the room, his eyes scanning every detail as if looking for something, or someone. The other agent, silent up until now, closed the door behind them. "We're aware of the situation with Reyes," Moore began. "And we know about Spectre." Ethan's heart skipped. "So you know what Apex is hiding, then?" Moore nodded, but his face remained cold. "We've been tracking this for a while. Spectre isn't just a corporate secret. It's a joint project between Apex and certain elements within the government, black ops, global surveillance. They've been intercepting sensitive communications and using the data to manipulate markets, politics, and foreign relations." Ethan swallowed hard. Why hasn't anyone done anything about it? Moore exchanged a quick glance with his partner. "Because too many people are involved. It's not just Apex, it's intelligence agencies, military contractors, even foreign governments. Taking them down would cause an international crisis. That's why this has been kept off the books." Ethan felt the weight of the conspiracy pressing down on him. "So, what do you want from me?" The other agent finally spoke. "We need the documents you've collected. The ones linking Apex to Spectre." Ethan's suspicion flared. "How do I know you're not part of the same system trying to bury this?" Moore's eyes narrowed, but he kept his tone even. "You're in the middle of something dangerous, Mr. Cole. If you keep pushing, they'll come for you. People like Brent Michaels don't leave loose ends. Hand over the documents, and we'll make sure you're protected." Ethan weighed his options. He didn't trust these men fully, but he knew one thing for sure: he couldn't hand over the proof. If Spectre was as far-reaching as it seemed, anyone could be compromised, even the FBI. He took a step back, stalling. "I need more time. The documents aren't all here. Let me collect everything, and I'll call you." Moore's partner didn't hide his impatience. "We don't have time. They're moving on Reyes as we speak." Ethan froze. "What do you mean?" "They've classified him as an enemy of the state. They're preparing to eliminate him, and when they do, every trail leading to Spectre will disappear, including you." Panic coursed through Ethan. If Reyes was eliminated, the final piece of the puzzle would be gone. He realized then that his only chance to blow this open was to act now. Without another word, Ethan bolted toward the door, ignoring the agent's shouts behind him. He sprinted down the hallway, his mind racing. He needed to get to Kate, secure the documents, and go public before it was too late. As he jumped into his car, his phone buzzed, another message from Kate: "They found me. I'm sending the files to a secure server." "Ethan, don't trust anyone." The cold reality set in. Apex, Michaels, the shadowy figures pulling the strings, they were closing in on all sides. He floored the gas, weaving through traffic as his phone buzzed again. Another message from an unknown number: "Reyes is gone. You're next." Ethan's heart pounded as he raced to Kate's apartment, but as he pulled up, he saw flashing lights, police cars and an ambulance. His stomach dropped. He sprinted toward the building, pushing past officers, but it was too late. He saw Kate's body being wheeled out on a stretcher, a lifeless form under a white sheet. A sense of helplessness washed over him. They had gotten to her, just like Reyes. And now, he was truly alone. But before despair could take over, his phone buzzed one last time. A new message from Kate's secure server. The files. Everything she had found on Apex, Spectre, and their government connections. Proof that could bring them down. The final piece of the puzzle. Ethan opened the file, scanning through the documents, and then he saw it. The shock hit him like a tidal wave. His hands trembled as he read the names, one after another. Spectre wasn't just a secret project Apex was running behind the scenes. It was orchestrated by key figures in the government, intelligence agencies, and corporate titans. But what sent his blood cold was one name in particular, buried deep in the file: Jason Reyes. Not as a victim, but as a key architect of Spectre. The hacker Ethan had fought to protect, the man at the center of it all, wasn't just an unwitting pawn. Reyes had designed the system, then tried to sell it to the highest bidder. When things went sideways, he'd staged his own downfall to disappear from the radar, using Ethan as a shield. Reyes had never been innocent, he had been playing everyone from the start. Ethan stared at the screen, his mind reeling. The entire time, he had been defending a man who had created the very weapon that could destroy countless lives. And now, with everyone after him, he was the only one left holding the truth. The weight of betrayal and realization hit him all at once. He had been nothing more than a tool in Reyes' grand scheme, and now, with no allies left and Apex closing in, Ethan had one final choice to make: expose the truth and risk everything, or run and disappear just like Reyes. The game wasn't about winning anymore. It was about survival. Now imagine yourself in Jason Reyes' shoes, the accused. You're being hunted for something much bigger than a simple crime, a truth that could bring powerful lives crashing down. Knowing you helped create this dark network, what would you do? Would you run and hide in the shadows to ensure your survival, or risk everything to confront the system that's determined to silence you? How would you handle the pressure, knowing one wrong move could cost you your life? Share your answers in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more gripping legal thrillers. What would you do to escape the shadows?